Have you anticipated building your own tiny home, but the more you look into it, the more complicated it seems? Then come along with us as we navigate you through all the options and restrictions, helping you make this dream come true. Let's go. Hey guys, Musa here from Quantum Home Improvements and Solutions. Welcome back. And if this is your first time to our channel, it's great having you join us. So finally, after many years, we are going to build our dream tiny home, which was supposed to be our first YouTube video. But unfortunately, due to many factors, we weren't able to make it. And one of them being that I have a spinal injury, which I need to work around. But there was a huge plus in having to wait so long. I was actually able to go to a lot of tiny home shows, which is organized through AITHA, which is the Australian Tiny Homes Association. And when I went and looked around, I was able to design something that's going to suit my property and also my budget. There's a lot more to building a tiny home than most people think, but the reason they've become hugely popular in Australia is because of the price of housing just going up and up. Now, off the bat, I've got to tell you, I am claustrophobic. So yes, I will be building a large tiny home, but there's a lot to take into consideration, especially council and also going on the road. But I'm going to be covering that in this video and future videos to come. So due to my spinal injury, I'm expecting this tiny home to take around about 12 months to complete, and I'll be releasing the videos in roughly in about 12 stages depending on our progress. And I'm going to show you all the intricacies as you journey with us. So now I will be focusing on the best use of space that's practical to us, and I'll also be focusing on energy efficiency while trying to keep the cost of this building down. I've drawn up the final plans and have done a rough costing with my friend Joe, who is an estimator by profession, and we both concluded that should cost around about $2,000 to $2,500 per square metre, and which comes to around $60,000 to $80,000 for this project. But hopefully the inflation doesn't continue to grow and it costs more. If you don't already know, I have a restricted builder's license and have built 4 houses over the years, including the one we live in. And so I've contacted all my suppliers, and I'm going to be mentioning them in the appropriate stages of all the videos. Okay, we're ready to get into it, and I've got my good friend Joe from Intellect Finance to give me a hand.
Hey guys.
And so the reason I've got Joe to give me a hand is because we're starting on the base, and the base is really heavy. And so we put them in place, we've measured it off just roughly, so the cross beams need to be cut. There's a lot of cutting involved before we even start welding, and then we need to level it out. Now, the second reason is because Joe came with me to a tiny home show back about 1.5 years ago, and we discovered a lot. What did you discover, Joe?
Oh, there's the different types of tiny homes that they made. It was amazing, but the cost was an overwhelming factor.
Yeah. We saw one that was a double. There was like 230 something.
Yeah, 230 grand.
Yeah, it's a lot of money for 60 square meters. Anyway, so I personally learned a lot. So when you're building a tiny home, you try to stick to the Australian standards in building. That's first of all. But the tiny homes that are on trailers, they have more complication in building because you've got to stay under a certain width, height and weight. So you've got to make it road worthy. All tiny homes have to be mobile. And so I'm going to be building one on skids. But the reason I decided to do that, because I weighed up all my options. And as I said before, I suffer from claustrophobia. I don't like tight spaces, and I don't think other people should really be forced to live in tight spaces. We're making this for our family, for people to visit, and I'd like them to be comfortable. And so when you're building a tiny home on a trailer, you can go 2.5 meters wide, you can go up to 4.3 meters high, including the trailer height, but the gross weight I think is 4.5 ton. Now that's vehicle and trailer. So that means the trailer has to be built really lightweight. And what I'm going to be doing here is not lightweight. So when you build it on a skid, they're actually put onto tilt trucks. And so I've been speaking to Mitch from Tambourine Transport and also my mate John Mifsud, and they've indicated to all the things I need to know. Now, when it's on skids, the great thing is you can go 3.5 meters wide. Now this will be 3.2, and there's a few reasons why I'm doing that, and I'll explain it as we go further. Now also, I can actually take this up to, according to what Mitch was telling me, probably 10 tonne. So these universal beams I've organised through my friend Renee from Fast Flow Augers, who's a very good friend of our family. My dad used to work for John Barry, his dad, for many, many years. And so I'd like to thank Renee. So Renee got these through Orcon Steel. And also I'd like to do a shout out to Matthew, who helped me to choose the right beams. These are 250s by 31 meaning the weight per metre, and they're going to be the bearers that's going to carry the weight of all the other steel. And all the RHSs and SHSs I got from Priority Steel, who have now moved to Seven Hills, and I'd like to thank Ariel for that, and also Ethan for delivering them. He did a great job. And before I forget, just a quick shout out to my friend John Millis from Darmel Air Conditioning. He organised all the power for me, we ran it, and also set up the switch. It's not fully connected yet, but I'll get him to do that down the track. So Joe, is it looking complicated?
Musa, as usual, you're making it look easy.
There's a lot involved, but I think the process is pretty simple.
I'm actually looking forward to seeing it come together.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into it. So what I'm going to do is start off by cutting these shorter universal beams. They're going to be the cross beams, and I'm going to bring them in roughly 1.5 metres in from both sides. And then inside here, I'm going to then also put 100 by 100 SHSs as a cross beam as well, to stop the movement and to brace it. So first we'll just cut this up, and I'll just measure it exactly 2 metres. So the tilt truck can take 2.4 metres wide. I'm going to make this all up just under 2.2. Okay, so now for these cross beams to fit inside these bearers, I'm going to have to cut the flange off enough to go inside, so just past this section. So I'm going to take the width off, and that's roughly 69 mil. Okay, Joe, this is looking fantastic. What we'll do now is slip it inside. That's it, now lift it, go. All the way up. Keep going, Joe. Keep going, all the way up. That's it, done. Thanks, Joe.
Set the mark there.
Roughly, it's not exact. Okay, so we've got them roughly in place, not exact yet. So what we're gonna do now is cut this piece, put it on the other end, and we'll start leveling this all off. That's it, Joe, just turn it down. Thanks, Joe. You're doing a great job. Joe, this is looking great.
Yeah, it's coming together, Musa.
Mate, this is actually not as hard as I thought it would be. And that Makita grinder, which I just bought from Total Tools, is just brilliant. I love it.
It was very powerful.
It just chewed through it. It burnt my jeans, but that's fine. Okay, so now we're ready to get into it. So we've cut a heap of timbers up, and we've got some jack stands. And so basically we're just gonna have to jack up those two sides. It's gonna go up a fair amount. We wanna make it pretty stable. And it is starting to sprinkle a bit, so we're gonna have to hurry, and we will be using the tractor to get this up at the level we need. All right, we'll get into it, Joe.
Let's go.
Just put the jack stand under it. Okay, now go, Joe. Just watch yourself, please. Wow, Joe, that looks fantastic. That is right in the middle. Okay, Joe, that looks about 115 mil. So we're gonna need enough packers for that thickness, for that height. Go. Okay, so we've had a bit of rain, so we've had to hurry this up, and we did have to make some changes. We found it was a bit unstable just using the jack stands, and so what we've done is actually used the universal beams that we've cut off, so they're 500 mil wide, and just only put a few timbers to stack them, so it's become more stable. We've put the cross beams in, and now we've just got to quickly cross measure to make sure that it's square, but everything is perfect now, almost ready to weld. So when you're making any kind of building, you want to square something off, all you've got to do is measure from one corner to the opposite corner on the other end, so which is what we're doing now. Now that comes to 9 meters, 741. So then we'll go to the other side and we'll measure that. Okay, look at that, 9 meters, 741, perfect. Hey Joe, we've done it. Thank you very much. This is the hardest part for me.
Miss. I actually enjoyed doing that.
Oh, that was fantastic. It was a bit of a brain tease, but it's actually turned out beautiful, very level, ready to weld. Thank you very much. You've done me a great service. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're back. It's a beautiful day and no rain, bit overcast, but it should be fine. And so I've got with me Marion.
Hi.
So Marion wanted to help me because due to my spinal condition, cauda syndrome, I have weak legs, so my legs fatigue. And when we were unloading the steel, I did fall. And so she wants to help me to make sure I'm going to be okay. Thanks, Marion. So what I didn't get to tell you yesterday, because it was raining, is that we had to level these out pretty accurately and everything had to be leveled. And we used these packers underneath the timbers to try to get everything straight. Now I've double checked it again today, make sure everything is okay, because we were in a little bit of a rush. I made slight adjustments, but we were pretty close. Mr. Suka's excellent. Okay, so now we're getting to the welding. Now I haven't mentioned this before because it's a bit close to home, but my father was a Class 1 welder, God rest his soul. And so he worked for many years and long hours. But if you've done any kind of welding, he was using arc welding. Now, if you've done any kind of welding, you know there's a lot of fumes and you've got to watch out in tight spaces. Now, after a period of time, he got sick of that and he worked in Flemington markets and he actually enjoyed it. But eventually he did get back to welding, but only casual and part-time. And he worked for a guy named John Barry who created the business Fast Flow Augers. And now it's run by his son, Renee, which I mentioned earlier. But by this time, my father had emphysema and he suffered for many years. So I've got to say, watch out if you are welding, that it is ventilated area, that the smoke is not going into your face. If so, you may need to wear a mask. And so the last thing my father made before he became gravely ill and went into hospital, he made me a bread maker. In Arabic, it's called a saj, where you make manouche or bread. And to honor my dad, we use it regularly. So I still have my father's arc welder, but I'm not going to be using it today. In actual fact, I went to Total Tools in Penrith and spoke to Dominic, who's a great guy, gave me a lot of good advice. And I went and bought myself a Unimig, and it's a Viper Multi 185. Now I have been trying this system out, it's quite good. So this can actually do MIG, TIG and arc welding, and the MIG welding can be with or without gas. The only problem without using gas, it does splatter a lot. So I am actually going to use some argon gas and it's already set up. So I've been advised that this can weld up to 10 mil steel, but in actual fact what we got here is 8 mil, so this is going to be perfect for what we're going to use. Okay, so now we'll get into it and I'll show you how to do it. Okay, I'll get this fence bar out of here. I didn't mention, but we use this fence bar to actually push the beams back when we were getting it all squared, so it's a really good tool to use. Okay, I'll just turn the gas on and I'll switch this on. The switch is just down the back here. I've got the earth clamp on. Now this particular mask is made by Sigwell. It's an active mask. I can see through the mask and as soon as I start welding, it shutters and it goes dark. So I don't have to worry about taking the mask on and off. I can see at all times. All right, we'll get into it. Okay, the setting on that was too dark. I've just lightened it up. Hopefully it's a bit better. Yeah, that's heaps better. Now also, when you are welding, you're gonna have to adjust the amperage. Now this is only brand new. I need to have more strength in this because I am welding 8 mil. So I'm gonna bump it up and you just basically just adjust it by going in the cabinet. So I've put the weld on now 8 mil and also I'm just gonna raise the amperage. Okay. So you've got to keep adjusting it. And also there's a wheel inside that turns and releases all the wire that welds with. You will have to adjust that as well. Heaps better. Beautiful, that is a beautiful weld. Now what I've got here, I've got my mask off my face, but I can see through the mask. And I've got the torch inside. I'm gonna see if you can see what I see. Now at this point you will only see a glare. So I don't know if you could see that. And it was very awkward for me to do that because I didn't have my mask on and I was on a strange angle. Okay, so now I'm just gonna weld the web. There we go, this side is done. Now, the technique of welding I'm doing here is called the drag technique. So there's different techniques. You can do the push, you can do the perpendicular, but I'm doing the drag. So I'm running backwards on the weld. Now, what that does, it causes it to go deeper, but it's not very wide. Now, because it's not wide, that means you have to float this across. You've got to keep going zigzag like this. So you've got to keep going this direction and just keep until you go all the way down or all the way up, depending which direction you're going. One thing to note, which I haven't said, that when you are welding, if they're light pieces, you have to tack first, and then you have to come back to them after everything is tacked. Now, because these are so heavy, they're not going to move. But what happens when you weld? Usually you get a twisting, so you've got to be very careful with welding. That's a very common thing. That's done. That looks fantastic. So I've got to say, I actually enjoy welding, and I haven't done MIG welding for a long, long time. In fact, the last time I did MIG welding was at Fast Play Augers when I was making something with my dad. So we just finished welding the other side. This uni MIG is just brilliant. Thanks, Dominic. I really appreciate your help. Okay, so now I've got a square hollow section sitting on top. It's 100 by 100, which is a 4" by 4" by 3mm. And we're going to use that as a cross brace. And so now using the square, the level, and a texter, we have marked it out and we're ready to grind it. And so what I've done is measured to the inner web, and then it's going to sit hard up against it. And we'll just cut the both sides. Ready? Just slowly go in. Beautiful. Okay, so because there's a curved section on the web going into the flange, I'm going to use a 6.5mm packer and just put that underneath. Thanks, Mary. And now what that does, it allows it to sit closer because it's out of that curve. So that's perfectly. I just got to measure it off to make sure how it's sitting. Okay, so the other end measured at 341mm from the web, and this one here is 340. Okay, so the last minute I decided to put a thinner packer so I can weld underneath. All right, so now I'll weld this together. Something to note, when you are welding a thicker steel to a thinner steel, so this is 3mm, this is 6.5mm, the web is 6.5, the top is 8mm. I've kept the setting on 8mm because I find it's welding really well that way. Okay, so now I'm gonna run a weld across the flange. Because we use the packer, there's a bit of a gap under there, so I'm gonna build it up a little bit, and then I'll come back and weld the two together. Okay, you do have to periodically clean inside the nozzle here. Okay, so that's clean now, I'll just do it again. How's that? One go. Thanks, Dad. All right, so now we've cut the next piece to go across this way. Let it sit on the other one so you're not carrying the weight, let it sit down. That's it. Now put it inside. I just got to measure the same as before, 340mm. Just come to your bit. Okay, so now just go to the cross section. I'm just going to use my texter again and just run that underneath on both sides. But also I'm going to draw a line here and there, so I know how it continues. So once we make this cut, then we'll just put the two pieces either side. Okay, I've transferred the measurements onto the other side. Now I'm ready to grind it. All right, ready? Oh, wow. It's the exact same, 340. All right, I'll just weld this end. I'll just tack it first. Okay, this is going to be the last weld for the day. I'm going to weld inside here on a very acute angle. It can be done, but you've just got to keep swaying it this way like that. It's going to be a bit of a mess, but I will try. Okay, we're all done. Made a bit of mess on the tip, but that's fine, I'll clean it up. Okay, that's all we're going to do for today. I'm buggered. Marion's helped me heaps. Marion, thank you very much. Okay, we're back. And as I said in the beginning, this is the hardest part, creating the foundations. So now I'm going to create the skid that goes on this universal beam. And this skid is made so we can slide it onto the tilt truck. So without that cut there, you will not be able to get it on. So now what I've done is made a template and basically just sit it up against the universal beam. And so what we're going to do is use the cut off and cut the flanges and the webs, and we're going to use them here to finish off this section. So this little piece we cut off in the beginning, we're going to use that here. And from the offcuts, we're going to then create another flange going across there. So there's a bit of work involved. So now with my measurements, these are 250 high. I've only come off the inside base 170 mil, and I've come across 240 mil. Okay, so now I'm going to go back the other side and take out those off-cut universal beams so we can start cutting them. Okay, Marion, can you put that jack in very quickly and move away? Good job, Marion. Just move away. That was excellent, Marion. Okay, so now very, very carefully with this depth machine, I'm going to cut where I've marked for the skid. It's a bit of a funny angle, so I'm going to have to be really, really careful. Metal fatigue. Okay, so I am getting through it. The disc I'm using is Flexivite, and this is a fast cut disc. It's quite good actually, but because the web is 6.5 mil and the flange is 8 mil, there's a lot of cutting. So what I've done here, so the web itself, that section there, I cut it out and cut 2 pieces out of that. And what I'm going to do with that, I'm going to put them on the side and weld that on, and then I'm going to put my hole. So what that's going to do is spread the load, so when Mitch puts the chain through, he's going to have some more strength on the web. Okay, so that's cut. Now you'll notice here there's another cut. So I've already preempted that, and this becomes the flange on the angle. There we go. Okay, so what I've got to do, where the web was, it's actually got a bit of a rise to it. I can't weld that directly onto that. I've got to take that rise off, so I'm going to have to grind into it. It's quite thick. What I'm going to do is butt it up to the bottom here, but there's a little bit of a gap, so I need to cut that gap down a little bit. So what I'm going to do is cut, instead of being a 90 degree, I'm going to grind down and put a bit of an angle just on the tip here, so that actually just sit right hard up against it. Now, one thing I didn't mention, it was hot earlier, and when you're grinding or welding and there's a lot of grass, you can have grass fires. Be really, really careful of that and be very conscious. We did have a little bit of a flare up. It was put out pretty quickly. The grass is pretty low here and it's pretty green. Just got a little bit of a bulge here. I'm going to take that out. Ah, that's beautiful. So basically I'm just going to hold it in place and then eye it from the top here looking down. That is spot on. I'm very happy with that. Okay, now I'm going to weld it up. Fantastic. There we go, a little fire. Okay, so now I'm going to cut this piece to suit. I won't leave this sticking out. I'm just going to grind it. Okay, let's see how this looks like. That's looking fantastic. Look at that, straight all the way. Beautiful, I love it. All right, so now I just got to trim this one back just a little bit. That is fantastic, beautiful. I had carpal tunnel operation on both my hands about 3 months ago, and I'm still struggling with them. This is a bit overwhelmed, but I'll just grind that back. Wow, all done. The skid is now complete. So Marion has been fantastic. What do you think of this, Marion?
It looks great.
I love it. This is fantastic. A dream come true. Okay, so now I'm going to use Sutton's Cobalt hole saw. This is a 48 mil. So this arbor is also made by Sutton's. It's quite easy to use. It's called a quick fix. So you pull this back, which is spring loaded, pulls the pins in, allows you to screw the actual hole saw on, and then you line up the hole saw with the pins and you just drop that in and it locks it in. And so when you're drilling with a metal drill bit, you actually have to do it on slow speed. This is not a slow speed drill, so I'm gonna have to trigger it, and I'm gonna get Marion to spray as I'm doing it. So this is a lubricant, and it's made by Trifolex, and it's made specifically to cut steel. That's it. Okay, we're through. Okay, so the drill came out. We don't actually need it anymore because we've already made the hole. It's probably better without it now. All right, just spray, Marion. That's it. It's almost through. Okay. There we go. All done. This is fantastic. Okay, we're back. We've just set up the skid now. It's level again. A lot of work, but much easier than when I did it with Joe. So Marion and I went to a lot of trouble just getting this dead level all the way around. And now we're going to do the parameter of the flooring and then put the floor joists in. And so, as I said before, the floor joist is going to come out to here. So it's going to be 3.2 meters wide, and the skids in the center are 2 meters wide. So it's going to have an overhang. I've grinded the edges where I've welded because these 100 by 100 SHSs, square hollow sections, are going to sit on the edges. So I had to get them fairly level to the universal beam. And so I went through and grinded in a couple of spots just to get it down. I'm going to put 100 by 100 here as well. So on the ends here and the other cross section and the end. Now I didn't plan for this, but I might actually put one in the center as well. And then we're going to fill it in with the 100 by 50 RHSs, so rectangular hollow sections. And so we're actually almost to the end of this and it's looking really good. So now I've marked this out. We've got the length sitting on the universal beam there just to give us a straight edge. And I've measured the balance, which is 3.5 meters, just over. And I'm going to cut that off now, and then we're going to just start cutting all the other pieces and getting ready for welding. So I do have a cutting chart here. So when I first designed this, I then did a cutting chart to see how much steel I needed. So this cutting chart is helping me to remember which pieces are going to go where. Okay, Marion, push it in place. Okay, just line it up. How's that looking?
Good.
That is fantastic. Ready for welding. That's really good. Okay, we'll do the other side. Yep, that's where it's going to sit, just there. Wow, what a big job to cut all this steel. But we did it, took us a couple of hours. The reason we've actually put the floor joist on top of the bearers is because we need to weld the bearers first. And I wanted to put some weight down on the bearers, so when I weld it, it doesn't move. So now we've gone through and marked out all the spacings of the joists. And so we've got the 100 by 100 here, but these are 100 by 50. Still 3 mil thick. All the steel we use in here, except for the bearer, the universal beams, they're all 3 millimeter, so it's quite thick. And so you need to have a certain spacing for your flooring. And the type of flooring you're going to use here is a waterproofing flooring, tongue and groove, and it can go 600 centers. Now here I'm going to be using most probably a fiberglass for the ensuite area so I can waterproof it. So the distance I've got between here is 500 mil. Now to find out a center, you basically have to have the center of the joist to the center, and these ones are 550. Now I can go up to 600, as I said. Now the reason I did 550 in this area, because I have the 100 by 100 SHS here, and this here is where the wall is going to come to for the ensuite. So I'm basically putting that here so I can actually put two sheets running up to each other, and then that way I'll just put a sliding door in between. Now, so I've done the exact same on the other end. I've come in 1.7 meters on the other end, put another 100 by 100 SHS, and did the exact same spacings. Now in between here, I've changed the spacings. I've had to go a little bit bigger, but also just here, I've got another 100 by 100. Now this is not the right length yet. I'm gonna have to weld two pieces together and then cut it to the right length. So I'm just going to leave it here again just for the weight and also to work out the spacings. So here we worked out that the spacings are 591 mil centers. So it's close to 600. So the first thing we're going to do is just go through and weld the 100 by 100 bearers, and then we'll take everything off and then start to weld the rest of them. So I've changed the settings on the machine now to weld a 3 mil, not an 8 mil. So I've just lowered it all. I'll just move this out of the way and just weld this. One thing to note also, I haven't said before, when you are welding downwards, it's a lot more trickier than doing a horizontal surface. So Marion and I went through and did a cross measure again to make sure that it is square and it's within 1 mil. I'm very happy with that. So now we're going to go through and weld the bearers together. So once we welded the joist to the bearers, the 100 mil to the 100 mil, we then pushed it out. Mary and I just slowly wiggled it out, and we counterbalanced, because you know there's more weight on this side now. So we counterbalanced by putting some of the 100 by 50 joists on either end just to hold it down. Then we got a Guppy and Mariah to give us a hand, and we put the other bearer on the other side. And so now we're ready. We've actually again checked our measurement, and it's again within 1 millimeter. This is incredible. All right, so what we're going to do is weld either end, because this is actually slightly bowed, which you tend to get with steel. So we're going to weld both ends, and then we'll push it to the center and finish that off. Okay, the bearers are now welded together. So I got Marion to pull all the joists out to take the weight off this. So now we'll pull back. Go, Marion. That's it. This is actually not too hard. That's 590. We're going to go over purposely. Okay, look at that, Marion. 590. Okay, so now we've got everything set up. We've measured the ends out from the web outwards, and it came to 590 on each side, so it's actually spot on. Okay, the joists are now in, and I'm ready to weld the whole thing together. So all the galvanized to the universal beam, and this will become one and all brace itself. And then when I put the walls up, that'll brace it in a different angle. So Marion, you did a beautiful job. This is fantastic. Thank you very much. This was not straightforward, was it? And it's a screamer of the day. It's so hot. So Marion's going to go inside, and I'm going to keep welding. Okay, I think I've done enough for today. I am buggered. I have welded every main section, so all the joists have been welded either side on every one of those rows of beams. These 100 by 100's been welded all the way through on the sides and tops. I've welded just a little bit on the tops here. I'll go through later and weld the sides. So that's enough for today. And Mr. Suka just arrived and he's coming to inspect. Hey, Joe.
Musa, wow.
What do you think, Joe?
Great, looking great.
What a big improvement.
Wow.
And my apprentice, Marion, has been incredible. She's never done anything like this before, ever. And she's just been such a helpful hand for me.
So
Mate,
she's going to be a qualified welder after this.
I think so. Hey, Joe, stand up there, give it a jump.
Oh. Wow.
Jump on it,
Solid.
jump. Do the tabke.
That's not going anywhere.
Do the tabke, man. Come on, jump.
Solid as. Wow.
It's nice, eh? There's no deflection in those floor joists. They're spanned just over 1.8 metres, and so the next stage is to put the walls up. But Joe, hey, thank you once again. This is just incredible. And Joe, now I'm starting to see the reality of how much this is going to cost. And so the first stage with the base and the walls will be around $10,000. So I'm definitely going to need a loan. And so thank you very much for organising them for me.
You're welcome, Musa.
So if you're interested to get a loan for a tiny home or any kind of loan, commercial or residential, Joe Suka from Intellect Finance is the man.
Thanks, Musa.
No, you're the best. So Joe, you ready for the next stage?
Yes, let's go.
So Marion's going to help to put the walls together, and then we're going to have around about 6 guys stand the walls up so I can weld them together. It's going to be the hardest part in the respect of trying to stand everything up all in one go. But this was the hardest stage out of all of them because everything had to be leveled off. So this is perfectly level, perfectly square, within a couple of mil, 1 to 2 mil. So I'm really happy with that.
That's beautiful, wow.
So that's the end of this video. I'd like to thank all the guys from Total Tool. They were fantastic with all the advice. I was able to use the right equipment. This went well. I thought it was going to be a lot harder. It was hard. Today was a screamer of a day. It was so hot. But anyway, I'm happy it's over. But I'm also happy that this first stage is over because it was actually giving me a lot of sleepless nights thinking how I'm going to do this. And it's now done, thanks to you guys.
No, you've done very well, Musa. You and Marion. Well done.
So that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoy it, hope you get something out of it. And if you have any comments at all, please leave them below and I will get back to you. And I'd ask you, please consider to subscribe, hit the like button and share this video, and there's many more to come. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Have you ever welded yourself?
Nah, since school I used to do. I did the MIG and the.
I've welded steel, but never myself.
You've never welded yourself?
No, I'd never needed to.
Oh, okay. You've come together as one package. That's not even funny, Musa.
Someone once asked me, "Are you going to tile yourself?" I said, "No, just the floors."